Welcome to Beautiful Angel Blossom's magical YouTube channel. Lots of fun here. Gaming videos to cooking and trying food to a whole lot more. Angel is a very random and magical girl. Lots of love.
Oh, there was an odd skippy boo, wasn't it? Hi, everybody. It's your girl Angel. July 7th. Monday. It's been a hellacious 4 days. I got some stupid neighbors. Anyways, I hope you guys have been okay. I've been okay, I guess, except for having bad pains in my head and being ultra tired. Tired? Apparently I can't speak either. Ultra tired, but other than that, I'm doing okay. I hope all of you guys are doing good as well. Ay, 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 chicas. So let's get into today's video. Oh, he's doing a video. We're doing a live stream. Right, Angel, right. Da 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 da. Oh, okay. Holy crap. This stream is off the rails. Let's hope I don't get any more copyright hits, because apparently playing games off of YouTube playables will get you copyright hits. Who knew? Who knew? Apparently short try videos do really good. That's interesting. That is very interesting, I guess. I'm gonna go ahead and, I gotta share, I forgot to share this link to social. I'm gonna have to share it to Blue Sky. I always share my live streams to Blue Sky. Ooh. They got a new feature. Live. I go live. I go live. Okay, we're good. If Nintendo ever wanted to sponsor me, don't! I don't like y'all. Just saying. So, yeah. Yeah. I gotta share this to socials. Alright, in tonight's video, we're gonna react to, some, uh-oh. Okay, let me do something really fast, because I really need to open up a new window. To open up a new Microsoft Edge. I need to come over here to the YouTube. I need to come over here to the studio. I am not prepared, apparently, and I need to get to the live stream dashboard so I can literally see the chat, because I had some very interesting people come to my last live stream when I did the body armored stuff, and Uh, there were some comments that I kind of don't really want to be public because it was kind of bad. Anyways, so let's react to Alex's news here about Nintendo getting sued. Let's see here what we got here for. Oh, all right.
Nintendo is finally going to get what they absolutely deserve. You see, I have had a big bone to pick with Nintendo recently, especially for their switch to EULA, where it turns out that the new EULA is going to prevent users from filing class action lawsuits against them, and that has been a major factor for me in general. On top of that, Nintendo has completely began to overreach and
Sorry about the noise.
overextend.
Hey, relax. I paused for a second. I had to turn down the volume on the thing because somehow I think it was trying to come through the microphone and headset. These Razer headset are garbage. Anyways,
and massive control over their Switch 2 hardware, which is also a major issue for me as well. Completely going against right to repair or even proper ownership of their consoles that you've already paid for and you've already owned.
yeah, see, that's something I don't care for, and I've heard so many people talk. You spend almost what was it, $450 for the console, and it's like Nintendo's like, yeah, you still don't own the console. You spend all that money, but you still don't own it.
Is something I truly just cannot get behind. And the fact that it is continually being defended over and over again by basically Nintendrones or 40-plus-year-old men who want to go ahead and defend this company simply because of nostalgia reasons really is the more insane part of all of this. And because of this massive oversight of the fact that no one
My unicorn avatar is not setting flush with the bottom of the screen. That was kind of jarring. Anyways,
is pushing back against Nintendo directly, and the fanboys do whatever they can to defend this company, Nintendo has been overreaching excessively, banning people who use things like the MIG switch cart, depending upon how they determine it, can brick that console directly and then no longer provide internet.
Isn't that the cart that you could put all of your games on?
Access for that console, thereby rendering it completely useless in today's modern age. On top of that, it turns out that people who had their consoles bricked by Nintendo still have their accounts active in their system, but the console is effectively bricked, meaning that those consoles are then being returned to places like GameStop and other major retailers, then being resold to other customers unknowingly and unsuspectingly, getting home and realizing, oh, the used Switch 2 that I bought, that's also a brick.
So GameStop is not checking out the systems that they're sending. So people are taking their bricked Switch 2s back to GameStop. GameStop is not checking it, and then GameStop is selling brick consoles. So people are actually buying for a used Switch 2 at a cheaper price and getting a brick system. No. That's kind of a messy situation, wouldn't you say, Nintendo, GameStop? But then again, Nintendo's the company that went after Amazon sellers for selling the console at a cheaper price. What's up with that?
It's becoming even more and more apparent that Nintendo never thought of any of these things through and was trying to take a jackhammer towards a nail to try and solve a problem. Instead of being surgical and direct about it, they decided to just ban everyone who didn't fit their narrative. And it gets even better because apparently now, if you don't have a username that they don't like either, they can ban you for that too. Because
oh God. Oh, this is Twitch all over again for me. Apparently Twitch told me years ago that Beautiful Angel Blossom was viewed by some as inappropriate. They didn't leave me an option. Whether it is get banned or delete your account. I've never used Twitch since. But really, I mean, Nintendo's saying that we're going to ban you for a username that they don't like. Do they not realize how hard it is sometimes to create usernames because most of them are tooken?
User went around and had their Switch 2 permanently banned because a family member named their account Twink Link.
Twink Link.
Twink Link. Okay. That's actually a really good name. I'm not even angry at that. I think that's okay. That's actually really good. I don't know why Nintendo would ban that, but that is honestly hilarious in every way.
Because Nintendo, never mind. I'm going to say a word that's going to get me into trouble. It starts with an N.
It couldn't be any better. But besides the entire overreach of Nintendo, basically making their EULA to where you can't sue them via class action lawsuit, banning accounts because of names, banning Switch consoles because of the MiG Switch and their massive fear of piracy. Oh, let's not forget them completely going around and destroying emulation as a preservation tactic in the future as well, simply because they refuse to put their games onto different platforms and lock them behind that piece of hardware, even though there is a massive market of PC gamers that would be ready, willing, and able to buy their games at a better performance standard just by simply putting their games onto that platform. But all of that aside, it turns out that the one place going around that could potentially provide a recourse of what's actually happening in this space and give Nintendo their just possible desserts is going to be Brazil. Bom dia! Brazil mentioned, baby!
I thought it was going to be the EU to be exact, because the EU seems to go after a lot of companies. And for people who want to know, the word that I cannot say on YouTube, and it starts with an N, they were around in occupied Germany during World War II. That's the word that I am calling Nintendo. I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get in trouble.
Let's go. Honestly, I am very excited about this because Nintendo is a company that has been using their legal muscle far too often with far too great extent and having massive ramifications and their impact against the actual consumer in the industry for far too long. It's honestly been so bad with Nintendo.
Alex, your microphone almost blends in with your shirt, sir.
Nintendo's legal actions that people are saying it is now morally and ethically correct to pirate Nintendo video games. And a perfect example of Nintendo's excessive legal overreach was, of course, in the Palworld lawsuits, trying to copy.
Yeah, I don't like how Nintendo went after Palworld. That's absolutely stupid, in my opinion. I can go on for hours and hours about how I think Nintendo is stupid for going after Palworld.
Copyright claim Palworld for being able to throw a ball and capture a creature, or even
just remember, Nintendo went out and filed a patent and everything just to sue Palworld. They're that goddamn petty. They're petty. They're more pettier than a cat.
Use a creature to fly in the actual world, even though those patents would completely fly in the face against every other video game that is being put out nowadays, especially MMO games or anything else in that aspect. Nintendo cannot sit there and say, this is mine, that's mine, this is mine, and then everybody be like, whoa, hold on, guys. Them Nintendo ninjas, they're gonna get you, bro. That kind of behavior is exactly...
Yeah, I remember I made a live stream about stuff like this a few months ago, and somebody said, do you have the lawyers showing up at your door? And I'm like, what lawyers? I'm not doing anything against the law. Nintendo knows it.
Well, it's Nintendo go around and do what they want to do and bully the gaming industry, when in reality...
What are they going to do? Show up, knock at my door and said, Angel Miss, you cannot talk bad about us. No, you are a bad girl. No talking about us.
They shouldn't be able to make those kinds of patents at all. We're still seeing the ramifications of what Warner Brothers did with the entire Nemesis system, where that's still filed and still put away, and nobody else can use that either, simply because they decided that nobody else would. But it looks like I said before, that Brazil is going to take a stand against this. Because according to an article by Dexerto, Nintendo is facing legal action over the ability to, quote, brick switch to consoles whenever they want. Regulators in Brazil have called the clause abusive under Brazilian law. And you know what?
Way to go, Brazil.
I agree with them. I feel like that is absolutely 100% abusive. If Nintendo wanted to go ahead and do something to provide a action against your account, that is one thing. We've seen that happen before. But to literally go around and brick systems that people have purchased simply because of the most innocuous things possible, whether or not they're using a MIG switch for piracy, is totally irrelevant. A person who owns the game physically should be able to make a backup of that game, regardless of what.
That's right. That's right. Backups are great, right? Because you won't know how many times back in the day that I had disc-based games that completely destroyed itself. I have one game that I can't even back up right now that's been sitting around that's getting disc rot. Yeah. I think I'm drinking water from yesterday.
Whether Nintendo wants you to do that or not, it is your physical product. You should have precedence and ownership over that physical product. There shouldn't be any more tethers tied to you once you provided that transaction and given them the money and they've given you the product. They don't get to pick and choose what you do with it afterwards. That's a big thing. You should learn that process. It's called ownership. If that's the case and it doesn't matter, then you shouldn't give them any money for the product in the first place. But hey, tangent aside. I really hope that this lawsuit, in fact, totally catches wind and gets even bigger with the fact that the possibility of getting the EU involved as well, which would then provide a better precedent overall that Nintendo cannot do whatever they want to do simply because people are terrified of those lawsuits. And all this could have been easily avoided if Nintendo would simply just be just a little bit pro-consumer. I'm not asking for them to do a whole...
Asking Nintendo to be a little bit pro-consumer. That's asking too much of Nintendo. Remember, they're still stuck back in the 90s, apparently.
Be a Valve. I'm just saying, just a little bit, you guys, right?
Remember the whole time that they went after almost every YouTuber for doing gameplays of their games?
You could have had everything, but you chose to do the actual opposite and go way too far to one end, swinging the pendulum in the total opposite direction in your favor. But let's see what the article said on Dexerto and go from there. Brazil's consumer watchdog is challenging Nintendo over EULA terms that allow the company to ban consoles from online services. In a June 25th press release, Procon SP, the Sao Paulo branch of Brazil's Consumer Protection and Defense Program, requested changes to Nintendo's end-user license agreement, calling certain clauses abusive under Brazilian law. And honestly, they're exactly correct. One of the big factors that I have a big problem with on Nintendo's EULA is that it's incredibly restrictive and does fly in the face of what I would consider to be right to repair. My Steam Deck is a great example. I can buy the parts from iFixit and choose to go ahead and replace whatever part I'd like on my own, without the necessity or need to go ahead and contact Valve to get permission to do so, or to send that device back into them directly to have that done. I can do it on my own time. That's a risk that I'm willing to take, but that doesn't mean that Valve can turn
I seen Stray
around and brick my Steam Deck, and that doesn't mean that simply because I changed the thumbsticks or changed the SSD inside of the Steam Deck, then Valve can choose to go through and brick my Steam Deck, or even say, hey, I want to put Windows on my Steam Deck. They're going to brick that device as well. See, that's what I don't want to happen. I don't want to have companies have massive control.
Last time I knew that you can pretty much do anything that you want to with the hardware of the Steam Deck, which is pretty awesome of Valve to do. Yeah, apparently if Nintendo wanted to, they could shut off the whole service to the Switch 2 and you won't have access to it. Say like if like the Switch 3 comes out or something, right? And they says, you know what? Yeah, we no longer want to continue service with the Switch 1 or Switch 2 and just turn it completely off and you no longer have access to all of your games. Basically bricking all their old systems. They can do that. They can do that.
over the devices that I've already purchased simply because we are living in the age of the Internet of Things. We're at a point right now where we don't even own video games, let alone now getting to the point where we don't even actually own hardware. Because the amount of control that companies and corporations are trying to...
I understand that when you buy games digitally that you don't necessarily own the game, but that's kind of silly too. But where you actually spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on hardware, you should be able to own that hardware and do whatever you want to with it. Can you imagine, say like you buy yourself a really expensive gaming laptop, right? And you, over the course, I guess you would validate your warranty. But say like if you wanted to upgrade the memory and upgrade the storage in it, right? And they're like, yeah, we're just going to have to brick your system because you did some unauthorized repairs on it. And yeah, you can no longer use your computer. And they put in a code to where it just bricks the entire BIOS system of the computer and you no longer can use it because you did unauthorized repairs to the hardware that you spent, $3,000 for. I can understand that you upgrading the memory or upgrading the solid-state drive maybe voids your warranty, but I really don't think it should void your warranty either because manufacturers are putting low system storage in computers and low system memory in computers, especially in gaming computers where you're not going to be able to have to install any games because you don't have enough storage. So do you understand where I don't think it should void your warranty if you put a bigger M.2 drive in your laptop or something? In fact, if you buy an extended warranty plan, it should come with a couple free upgrades, if you know what I mean, but, you know, I don't know. But can you just imagine, though, you spend $3,000 on a gaming laptop, and you go and upgrade it, upgrade the storage and stuff, and they seen that in their software, and they send you an email saying that we disabled your laptop from unauthorized repairs that they didn't authorize. But you're like, but I spent all that money, and they're like, well, you spent all that money, but you do not own that hardware. We do. That was just a one-time rental fee.
Exert onto you, the customer and consumer, while also at the same time asking for more money from you is really ridiculous. If you're going to exert that much control, then at least the customer should pay less overall. But let's continue in the article though. The main concern is Nintendo's ability to permanently restrict access to services like the eShop and online play if they believe someone has violated its terms, including by using unauthorized accessories or pirated software. This is also known as...
Wait. So if you like pair a different controller to the Switch too, they can brick your system? Okay, that's kind of bizarre. Like, they sell all different kinds of accessories for the Switch and Switch 2. They sell portable docks, too, so you can hook it up to a hotel TV and stuff. Are they going to brick your system for using one of those portable docks? Or using a different controller? Oh, boy.
Bricking. Any bricked console receives a 2124-4508 error code and lose total access to online. The console still works offline, but has already resulted in fans unknowingly buying affected secondhand consoles. And like we talked about before in the previous part of the video, where customers are going around and buying secondhand Switches, they're getting them completely bricked because there's no way of testing whether or not that console has been bricked in the first place when it's being sold back to GameStop or being returned back to a store or anything along that nature. And you can bet your bottom dollar the person working behind the counter is not going to take the time to be like, did you use a MIG switch on this? Did you get this console bricked? Like, what's going on here? And use that directly. Nintendo's overreaching, overarching, overexertion of them trying to use the EULA to control the actual device and ownership of these devices is really just the problem in general. If they kept a basic hands-off approach and decided, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. They're going to buy the fucking thing anyways, like they already have. Apparently 5 million units have already been sold within like the first.
Anybody buying a Switch too? Not me. I can't afford it anyways, but I won't. I'm not the audience for the Switch hardware. I thought at one point that the Switch Lite was a great looking console. It was cute and everything, but after Nintendo keeps on doing shady stuff, I don't want any of it.
First month, which is absolutely insane.
Technically, I don't need any games console anyways because I got computers, but nonetheless, you know what I mean. Can you imagine, though? Can you imagine a computer manufacturer bricking your computer because they don't like the accessories that you use? They don't like the game controller that you use or something. Or they don't approve of the headset that you bought for it. That's the crazies we're dealing with here over at Nintendo.
By the way, then no one would be making this kind of content. Hell, I would have bought an actual Switch and things would have been hunky-dory. There wouldn't have been any problems. But no, they didn't want it to go ahead.
Is that the Switch 2 actual gameplay? Oh god, that doesn't look great, does it?
Head and squeeze out every single dollar they possibly could, going around and charging you $80 for video games, $500 for the console. And after yesterday's video about how much greed they poured out consistently by removing their things from Amazon as well as just restricting who can buy what from where, you can see that Nintendo is being literally led by Bowser himself. No, I'm not kidding. The guy who's running Nintendo right now, his name is also...
Really? 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 I need something. This requires something. I can't believe that the person that's in charge of Nintendo of America's last name is Bowser.
So Bowser, it's just... It really can't be more poetic than that, honestly. And every single gold coin that Bowser wants to pull from your wallet, he's going to attempt to do so. But the article continues by saying this. Procon SP says that canceling subscriptions or services without explanation violates consumer protection rules. Nintendo has no formal legal presence in Brazil, forcing the agency to contact the company's U.S. headquarters just to open talks. Nintendo has appointed a local law firm to handle the matter, but only for this specific case. The existence of a representation in Brazil should be one of the criteria for purchasing decisions, said Alvaro Camilo, Director of Service and Guidance at Procon SP. Whether Nintendo agrees to change its policies remains unclear. The company has 20 days to respond to Procon SP's request.
I wonder.
And a lot of things were just divulged right there in that little bit of paragraph, and we can go over that real quick. You see, it turns out Nintendo doesn't even have representation in Brazil for legal matters, so clearly they don't give a they really just do not care. They're going around and being like, we're going to do whatever we want, whenever we want, because one, we're a Japanese station company. Two, we're just going to go ahead and just decide what we're going to do with our devices, even though you've already purchased it.
And Nintendo, whenever you break the law in other countries, you can fight the law, but the law wins. Oh, what's that song? I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won.
And three, if you want to go ahead and get in contact with us, we're just going to ignore you anyways. The hubris, the insanity, and the giant fact that Nintendo's giving.
It seems like Nintendo is run like a mob. Does anybody get that feeling that Nintendo is being ran by like a mafia?
a massive middle finger for anyone trying to go ahead and have some semblance of right to ownership or even right to repair of their own.
Oh my god, Angel just said that Nintendo is like the mob. Oh no! The Nintendo ninjas are going to show up at my house and have Black Hawk helicopters flying around. Oh my. I'm such a bad girl.
Devices really is concerning to me, and the fact that other companies will also see this as a precedent to say like, hey look, Nintendo's doing it, we can do it too, I bet, and they'll just go ahead and swallow it down like they always tend to do. And that's the problem I have with all of this. I am actually very interested to see which local law firm in the US is going to handle the matter and how they're going to approach this, because it turns out that if Brazil does in fact win this over, this could set a precedent for other nations to do so as well, or even the EU to then go ahead and force Nintendo to make changes to their EULA, or even go through and make changes directly to how they go ahead and restrict usage of their consoles directly. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of government overreach or government oversight, a lot of the things that I like. I don't want to get political. That's not my jam. The difference, though, is at the moment in time, we are seeing corporations and companies run roughshod and wild over every single person simply because they want to be able to control the product after the trade transaction has already been completed. If
you buy the hardware, that hardware is yours. You spend all that cash. That bloody hardware is yours.
My Switch gets bricked, I should get my money back from Nintendo. It shouldn't be that they get to keep my money, break my console, control my usage, and decide what I can and cannot name myself,
I agree.
or what I can and cannot do on the product that I already purchased or the service that I already paid for. If they want to ban people from the service, that's one thing. Fine, I get it. Make a new profile, make a new account, whatever. But banning the actual console and breaking the literal device to have it no longer be usable and then have it function against the next person wanting to go ahead and get their hands on a Switch 2 thinking they got themselves a deal is a massive concern and issue.
I agree.
I have a feeling anyone trying to buy a secondhand Switch may have a worse time overall because they're going to be the ones getting screwed in the
I think after this news gets out pretty much that people may not even buy secondhand Switch 2s.
long run.
And probably people may not even purchase Switch 2s or do trade-ins for Switch 2s. If you buy it and you want to get rid of it later on, might as well just put it in the closet. Because that resale value just went bye-bye.
Going through and having a 50-50 shot of whether or not that Switch 2 is an effectively bricked console because the previous owner wanted to go ahead and either use a MIG switch to back up their games and got banned, or they had a screen name like Twink Link. I kind of like that name. I think I'm going to make that my Steam name. I'm just saying, it's a really good name. Having Nintendo have less control over the product and device that you purchase is a good thing overall. If your Switch 2 breaks, you're not left out in the cold. You can go ahead and repair that device without getting banned or bricked. If you went ahead and decided to buy a used Switch 2 because the one you had basically just died, you couldn't repair it, and you wanted to spend less money on it, you wouldn't have to worry about getting a potential bricked Switch 2 as well, and not have to worry about losing even more money on top of that. I don't understand why people have this really weird obsession with only buying directly from Nintendo or only trying to defend this company and corporation on a consistent basis entirely. None of that honestly makes any sense. You should have every opportunity that you can to have a better experience for yourself as a consumer rather than kowtowing, bending over, and putting Belladonna to shame instead of just going through and saying, look, I need to do what's best for me as a consumer rather than what the company thinks is best for them. But of course, there's always one in the crowd, and here's a look. Jordium Z 2002 said this.
I mean, we shouldn't put up with this bullshit from these companies. Right? If we spend all this money on stuff, that hardware should be ours.
They'll fail because Nintendo isn't bricking people's consoles. That's misinformation. They're just
oh, Jordan, you're wrong again.
Revoking people's rights to use online services when they break TOS. Jordan, I want to make it very incredibly clear. You cannot use a device to its full capacity if you do not have online internet access. If you cannot access the eShop, you are having a massive restriction on your console. If you cannot log into the actual device and you get an error because the console is bricked, regardless of whatever account you have to set up your account in the first place, that is a massive brick as well. They are literally bricking consoles specifically, especially if you untether your account from that brick Switch 2 and then reattach it to another Switch. Thereby, it is unable to actually pair a new account to that Switch, and people are selling those back to people. Effectively, they're selling back bricks. But your insane defense of this company and corporation truly knows no bounds. We are again in the Internet of Things, and the age of the Internet is seeping into everything.
I mean, you got the Xbox app that's going to be coming to LG TVs and other TVs. All you have to do is pair your Xbox controller and then sign up with Game Pass and play all of your games without needing a console or a computer. All you have to do is download the app and it plays right from the cloud. That's an Internet of Things. I mean, you need the internet for almost everything now, right? If you go offline, then your life is a living hell. Because you need the internet for literally almost everything now. I got programs on my PC that will not work offline. Like a video editor. It's got to be online. It doesn't work offline. Whenever there was an internet outage, half the programs wanted to work on my computer. It all needed internet access to work. So, like, if your Switch 2 gets bricked and it's offline, and you go and put in a game and it requires internet, then you can't play it. So it's more or less a doorstop or a picture frame device, if you can even do that.
No, I don't need the internet for my hairdryer. No, I don't need it for my toothbrush. Stop it. Get out. I'm an old man. I will yell at this cloud all day long.
Yeah, why do we need internet-connected toothbrushes and hair dryers? I seen a Wi-Fi enabled and Bluetooth enabled curling iron in Walmart the other day. I shit you not, $150 for that thing. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, what's the difference between it and a basic one? There's stuff that I got shocked by. I learned that there are internet-enabled diapers out there that can send an alert to your phone whenever your baby has a bathroom incident. Yeah, when your baby goes potty in a diaper, it will send the alerts to your phone, apparently. I was watching this on Facebook the other day, and I'm like, wow, there's internet connection for almost everything in some parts of the world. Maybe I can understand, like, washers, dryers, stoves, and appliances, because you can see the cycle time on your phone. Say, like, your dryer's about done, and you look at the app on your phone, and you're like, oh, the dryer's about done. Go to where the dryer is, and, things like that. I can understand that. Or say, like, if you got, like, a cake or a pie or something in the oven, I mean, you can sit there, and some have cameras in it that you can look. And then the internet-connected refrigerators. Those are another interesting thing, because somebody actually got Fortnite to run on one of those. The Android version of Fortnite, they got running on a refrigerator door. Yeah, internet-connected things. Almost everything, it seems, you turn around is having some kind of Bluetooth, some kind of internet access. From washers and dryers to diapers to anything that you can imagine probably has an internet connection to it somehow, in some way, in some parts of the world. That is how connected we are to the internet now.
This is going way too far. And again, it's honestly easier for Nintendo to simply say, hey, we're just going to ban your account from online services instead of trying to ban the actual device itself. But you know what? when I think about it even further, it's actually more malicious of what Nintendo is in fact doing. They're not just going ahead and suspending your account. They're not shutting down your account. What they're doing is they're sending an error code, breaking your Switch directly so your console no longer functions online, rather than your account no longer functioning online. There's a big difference. You see, Nintendo could simply just shut down your account, keep your Switch 2 active, and you can just make a new account. Not even have to worry, and then you're fine from there. Instead, they're breaking the console from getting online access, which means that for you to actually go ahead and access the online, your account is still active. They'll make you buy an entirely brand new Switch 2 instead, which costs you $500.
I wonder if there's some way that you can get past that. If they brick your system, I wonder if there's some ingenious people out there that has figured out a way of bypassing that. Doesn't the Switch 2? Did somebody said the Switch 2 runs a custom version of Android? Is that true? Can someone confirm or deny that? I was reading about that on the old Facebook the other day. That's what somebody was saying. I don't know. Somebody needs to confirm or deny that, whether it's true or not. I wouldn't think that Nintendo would use Android as the backbone to their operating system. It's theoretically got to be some kind of Linux build, right? To run on the hardware? I don't know. Something I was reading.
So what they're doing is, if
things may not be true on the internet, right? So things cannot be true on the internet. Some things may be false, but I don't even have any way of confirming whether it's true or whether it's not true. So I was just saying what I was reading, and I could have been reading false information again. You know how social media is, right?
they don't like anything that falls under their EULA, or if they just have a bad day to piss you off, they're instead going to go ahead and just lock you out of $500 from your device, make you buy a whole nother $500 device, and just put your account there as well. That's even worse. That's even just worse than making an entirely new account, because accounts are free to make, but the console costs $500. I really hope things go in the wrong way for Nintendo and Brazil goes ahead and takes them to the cleaners, because this would be the...
Yes. When did I just turn into an Italian? I just did that whole Italian thing. Nintendo just made me go Italian for a little bit. Anyways.
Best course of action overall. And you know there are going to be people saying like, oh, Nintendo's going to win. They're going to pull out their ninjas. They're going to pull out their lawyers. It's going to be fine. And that would be, in fact, the worst case scenario, because that could set a precedent for other future devices and consoles for consumers moving forward, eroding right to repair, eroding actual physical ownership, eroding the fact that you don't own your games anymore by giving you digital game key cards. Everything Nintendo is doing is flying directly in the face of a pro-consumer company and doing nothing more than providing you with less product, less ownership, and less control over the products that you purchased, even though the transaction has already been completed directly with that company. And if this doesn't stop in some way, or Nintendo doesn't face repercussions in some way, it's going to spread to everyone else. Like I've talked about before, imagine if I downloaded a different version of drivers on my AMD GPU, and then AMD decided to brick my GPU, forcing me to buy a whole brand new one. That's exactly what we're talking about here. The amount of control is far exceeding everything that is happening in today's day and age, and it is far greater than people wanted to realize. Hopefully, this flies back in Nintendo's face, and there are some ramifications for them directly, because if this doesn't, then it will directly impact every consumer in the future moving forward, and will be a greater ripple effect overall. And that is going to be a horrifying scene when you are going to go ahead and own nothing and at least pretend to be happy. Bing, bing, wahoo, I guess, right? But you know what? Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section down.
Yeah, I hope Nintendo loses. I'm sorry if I piss off any Nintendo fanboys, but I honestly hope that Nintendo loses. We got one more video here about I keep on yawning. Sorry about that. Your girl is tired over here. Well, let's see what Rich Tomorrow has to say about Every time I go and react to Rich's videos, I need to smoke something. Look, he's got a picture of Gates naked, and what's that, frickin' Dr. Phil? And a dove or something? Oh my god. Okay. Alright.
I'm not going to make separate videos for this because it's just too much. There's a lot of interesting stuff here, and none of it is a good look for Nintendo. So just buckle up, because this video is going to be a journey with men and birds. Now, if you remember fairly recently, it was Nintendo President of America, Doug Bowser, that said, hey, if you can't afford a Switch...
I can't get over that last name. I mean, Bowser was the enemy in the Mario Brothers. And, okay. Moving on.
Switch 2, just get an original Switch. Which the irony of him saying that now that the price of the Switch 2 in Canada is going to increase soon. So it's like, hey, you can't afford the Switch 2? Buy the original Switch, a soon-to-be decade-old console that we're increasing the price on if you're a Canadian. And I'm sure it's not going to be the only market.
Why the hell are they raising the price on the original Switch? Is Nintendo doing shrooms?
Market too. I remember comparing that to when Don Matrick, when they announced the Xbox One.
Oh God.
And they said it's going to have to always require an internet connection. When he was asked by Jeff Keighley about that, he told people, hey, just buy an Xbox 360.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
If you don't have internet access, don't buy our next-gen console.
Why does it feel like I have reacted to these videos, but these are brand new?
Which is the console we're hoping to financially support us in the future. Just buy a 360 and shut up. Well, during a shareholders meeting, Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa, he basically said the same thing. If you can't afford a Switch 2, I don't know what to tell you. Go somewhere else. Go,
That's a really, really, really piss poor attitude to have. Uh-oh. Okay, my computer did something weird.
Go get one of our free-to-play games, which didn't really do well on a mobile phone. Don't you have phones? Remember that banger from Diablo Immortal?
Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever?
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is what Furukawa had to say about the Switch
Don't you like how CEOs do that sort of stuff?
2 pricing during an investors meeting. Now, Furukawa was asked during this investor meeting by the investors, younger Nintendo gamers are missing out on the Switch 2 because they can't afford it. It's too much money. And this is what Furukawa had to say.
I have to keep looking at Bill Gates' nasty-ass body. No one needs to see that. Ugh. Anyways.
It is true that the Nintendo Switch 2 is more expensive than previous game consoles. We are creating various opportunities for young children to experience Nintendo characters
and
the world of games outside of game consoles. Yeah, so go play a mobile game and shut up. Get the money. Find a way to get the money. You can't get the money. Play Super Mario Run, I think that's what it's called, right? Where you just tap on the screen and make Mario jump. There you go. That's your Nintendo experience, you peasant. Now, if there is a silver lining to what Shintaro Furukawa said, is that he did also state that Nintendo is going to watch how people react to the pricing if the pricing starts to impede on sales. So he was basically hinting that if we can't move the console off.
Okay. I'm trying to react here, and I got stuff happening over here. I think my computer smoked something. I think it got into my my green bean. Why is Microsoft Clip Chat trying to open again? Alrighty then.
Store shelves, which Nintendo is not having a problem with right now at all, they may think about lowering the price of the Switch 2 in the future. But with how things are going in the gaming industry right now...
Okay, if they raise the price in Canada of the Switch 2 and the original Switch, and then they're like, well, maybe we can lower it down in the future. No. Okay? Because the way that everything's going to be going completely up in the world. I mean, the prices of everything's going to increase because Nintendo was like, well, the quality of the game means that we can charge $80, $90 and you will pay it because we think it's great. Oh, our new Zelda game that's coming out. I want to say my cat's name. Wow. Anyways, I'm trying to do it in a posh voice. A posh voice. Type of Richie posh voice type of thing. If they come out with the new Legends of Zelda game. Oh, our new Zelda game is going to be $250 because we think it's a high quality game. If you can't play it, you're too poor. And meanwhile, Nintendo doesn't sell a single ass copy. That's how that's going to go. Just saying. That's Nintendo's logic right now,
I just don't see that happening, but one can hope. Anyway, moving on to more bad news about the Switch 2. And this is involving its internal storage and how that could impede on what developers can bring to the console in the future. Now, I'm actually subbed to this channel on the latest episode of the Moore's Law is Dead Broken Silicon podcast. Alderaan Games founder, as I knock over the bird, Alderaan Games founder Matthew Castles, they created the game called Path of Exiles. He was talking about a few gripes that he has with the Nintendo Switch 2. One of them being is that they use...
Why does that Mario Kart game... If that's the new Mario Kart game that's being showed, Super Tux Kart looks better in so many aspects, and that's a free game.
Is the FAT32, Nintendo that is, and exFAT file formats on the Switch 2, which the original Switch also used these file formats as well. Now with FAT32, it has a 4 gigabyte file size limit. So if you use FAT32, you're going to have to cut up your assets in chunks, and that's a pain in the ass and a limitation, but that could have a workaround. But at least with that, developers...
Why are they going with FAT32? exFAT is what every frickin' SD card format is. I have a 512 gigabyte exFAT formatted SD card in my phone right now.
Could find a workaround and split up their assets and make it work within the FAT32 confines. Also, the Switch 2 does support exFAT as well, which allows for bigger file sizes.
That's good.
But this is where things get really...
Yep, Super Tux Kart looks so much better.
...bad. Due to Nintendo cutting costs with their internal storage, they're keeping a strict limit on how many times a game can write data to the internal storage to prevent it from dying too soon, because Nintendo cut costs by putting cheaper NAND inside the Switch.
Oh my god. That's so damn stupid.
So essentially where this could become a concern is, say if there's a big third-party title being released and this big third-party developer / publisher wants to bring that same game to the Switch 2 because the Switch 2 is capable of handling it. But there may be a big setback if this open world game, let's call it an open world game, this imaginary one, if they need to write a certain amount of times to the storage.
Grand Theft Auto 6.
If Nintendo goes, nah, you ain't allowed to do that, well, it's going to be real hard to bring that game to the Nintendo Switch 2. Like,
ouch. I mean, Nintendo. We all joke around Microsoft stepping on rakes all the time, right? Looks like Nintendo just stepped on a big one with the Switch 2.
All because they wanted to cheap out on the internal storage. So that could be a big problem in the future with third-party titles and game development for the Switch, and it may limit how much third-party support could is the key word, limit how much third-party support the Nintendo.
I mean, if it's got to write stuff to the disc and read stuff from the disc and write stuff to the disc, and it can't do that properly because of Nintendo's limitation, then some games may have a lot of stutter because of that.
Nintendo Switch 2 gets in the future. We will have to wait and see, but that's not good news. But wait, there's more bad news. The Brazilian Consumer Protection Agency is going after Nintendo for their end user license agreement. Remember the story I did where someone's family member changed their username on their Switch 2 to Twink Link, and their console got banned, and Nintendo refused to reverse the ban?
Nintendo are idiotic people, I swear. People at Nintendo are idiotic. They're imbecilic to the very last.
And, well, the Brazilian Consumer Protection Agency, Procon-SP, is not happy with that. And they actually sent out a formal notice to Nintendo, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes. This comes from WCCFtech.com. I'll read it to you, then we'll discuss. While the Nintendo Switch 2 is doing well in Brazil, some of the provisions of its end user
Super Tux, I keep on saying Super Tux Kart and Disney Speedstorm are way better looking kart games than this. Did anyone tell you to mute whenever I unpause the video? No, right? Why did you pause and mute it at the same time I unpaused it? Why did you mute it, computer? Why? You know?
They caught the attention of Procon SP, the Sao Paulo-based branch of Brazil's Consumer Protection and Defense Program. Nintendo being able to terminate user accounts and making the consoles permanently useless without giving a solid reason and not being able to reverse these bans is a violation of Brazil's Consumer Protection Code section 8.078/90. And this code says that it seeks to meet consumer needs, to respect their dignity, health, and safety, to protect their economic interests, to improve their quality of life, and to ensure transparency and harmony in consumer relations. That Brazilian Consumer Protection Agency is also not happy with the EULA saying that users can't sue Nintendo.
Why would that be part of the EULA? Oh, that's about as stupid as the clause that's inside of the new charter agreement with NASCAR. By signing this, you cannot sue us, but NASCAR got sued by it. Yeah, Nintendo needs to be sued, just saying. I don't care what the EULA, the EULA stands for. If any company puts "you cannot sue us" in their EULA, then they're doing some real shady shit. Now, aren't they?
Which a lot of people, I'm sure, would want to do if their brother accidentally changed their name to Twink Link and now their console is useless. That is insane. You want to give like a 48-hour suspension or something like that, even though for the name Twink Link, I think that's ridiculous. Nintendo, fine. But you actually...
No one should get in trouble for their username. That's my professional opinion about it. Unless it's really something really bad.
Make it that
but then again, you know, when you put in that name, it should pop up and say, hey, this is inappropriate, and you cannot use it. You know... Things like that. Instead of the person getting into trouble, just pop up with a little warning and saying you cannot use this username because we say it's inappropriate, and no harm is done.
Your console is a brick and can't access online services for good over a username?
Yeah.
Nah, man. Nintendo, you're sniffing your own farts and your ego is too big because of how well the original...
Rich is so Nintendo sniffing their own thoughts.
Switch did and how well the current Switch 2 is selling. And I hope action is actually taken from the Brazilian Consumer Protection Agency against Nintendo because it's absolutely ridiculous. It is...
Oh my god. Am I going to get in trouble? Am my Nintendo 64 somehow going to end up getting banned because I took apart a transparent blue and green controllers and put them both back together again, but it's now transparent blue and green. I made custom controllers. I illegally modified my Nintendo 64 that I had. I am such a bad girl. Nintendo don't like that sort of stuff. Oh wait, it's an offline console and it has no concept of the internet since it was made back in the 90s. I don't even think that stupid thing works anymore, to be honest with you.
Completely draconian what Nintendo was doing.
Then again, I didn't like the Nintendo 64's graphics very much because I always thought the graphics were very muddy and the draw distances were very, very small compared to the Dreamcast and the PlayStation. And plus, games look better on the Dreamcast and the PlayStation than it did on the N64. Plus, racing games were a ginormous pain with that silly little joystick, and some racing games didn't utilize the D-pad, and you had to use that stupid joystick. I hated that controller with a burning passion. Hated the Nintendo 64 controller. Why are we on the Nintendo 64? Anyways.
And it needs to be stopped. You can't charge $450 and more in other countries for the Nintendo Switch 2 and go, hey, we don't like your username. We find it offensive. Therefore, your console is now useless, and we won't reverse the ban. That is one of the most anti-consumer things I've ever seen a company do in this industry.
I agree. I agree with that.
It's unbelievable. And you are sniffing your own farts right now because of how wildly successful this Switch 1 was and how well the Switch 2 is selling. So it's like, I don't know, who cares? Oh, wait, there's a console banned and their console is now useless? Oh, look, 5 other people bought a Switch 2. That's how Nintendo's thinking right now. That is how they're thinking. So let's bring this home, okay, and go over what's going on with the Nintendo Switch 2 right now. It's selling well, but it doesn't mean that this news that I gave you isn't bad. First off, you have Nintendo.
I would never buy any Nintendo console. The last Nintendo system that I ever bought was used, and it was a DS Lite. And I only have one game for it.
Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa saying, hey, you can't afford a Switch 2? Find other ways to enjoy Nintendo. Sucks for you, you can't get a Switch 2. Then you go on to the fact that the internal storage of the Switch 2 may limit third-party development because Nintendo is being super strict with how many times developers write to the internal.
What the hell is Nintendo doing with that? I mean, that's like stepping on another rake. I mean, the whole Switch 2 and Nintendo is them constantly stepping on rakes.
Internal storage because they cheaped out on it, supposedly, and they want to make sure that the life of it isn't shortened by developers. So that could mean in the future that we may miss out on third-party games on the Switch 2. And then on top of it, which actually, at least on the consumer side of things, this could be a good thing, you have the Brazilian Consumer Protection Agency, Procon SP, going after Nintendo because of their draconian.
I hear that the EU wants to get their hands on Nintendo too. So we're gonna have to see what takes place with that, because I was reading something on Facebook that the European Union is not happy with Nintendo.
End user license agreement, which they're actually enacting and banning people's consoles, their Switch 2s, for good over ridiculous reasons. It's so funny because one thing, even before I did YouTube online news and whatever weird stuff I do on here, you've always seen this throughout history. If a company is very successful for a generation, you know, because again, corporations are run by human beings, and you could tell that the human beings running said company, whether it be Sony, whether
I had the thought that was for Nintendo, since they like to sniff thoughts, according to Rich. Wow, I had a weird accent. What happened there?
it be Microsoft, whether it be Nintendo, when they have a successful generation and they're going into the next one, their egos swell up and they're like, we can't do anything wrong. Even though history has proven otherwise over and over and over again. We sold over 150 million Switch consoles. People are just going to buy the Switch too, no matter how anti-consumer our end user license agreement is. I remember when Sony went from the PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 2, I just checked the numbers now, is still the best-selling console of all time, with over 160 million units sold. When Sony...
I have a PlayStation 2. The fan doesn't work on it no more. I've had my own fair share of PlayStations and PlayStation 2s. They all have died of similar deaths because of the laser that went out of it. Right? But my PS2 Slim, because I have a PS2 Slim, the one that has the power supply built into it, has a bad fan on there, and plus the controller completely fell apart. Yeah, it basically sat in a box in the house that I used to live in that had a lot of moisture and a lot of water issues, and that house is falling apart now because of all the leaks and stuff. And let's just put it this way, I went to go clean it up after I moved in, and I think I did a couple videos with it. I think that one time I was playing Spyro here, and the power went out or something like that. But I got it out of the box, I cleaned it up, and there was mold and stuff all over it. And I cleaned it up, and I found the controller. The controllers, they're just disintegrating. And the laser still works, everything still works, but the fan, the plastic is like, you touch the fan and it just completely falls apart. So I have to put like a fan in it or something, or blow a fan in it or something. But it still works, and I still have PlayStation 2 games, but I don't have a controller for it, and I don't know where to get a controller for it. So, and I no longer have a functioning AV cable because the AV cable is shorted out too now. So yeah, that thing is just still sitting in the box right now. It's very, very beat up. It's a beat up PlayStation 2, but it still works. All it needs is repairs.
Went from the PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3. They're like, we could sell this console whatever price we want to. We could tell people whatever we want to, because they bought the PlayStation 2 and they're going to be dying to buy the PlayStation 3. And yes, Sony's ego got in the way. And when the PlayStation 3 launched, it was brutal, man. They turned things around with the PlayStation 3 during the 7th generation. And in the end, the very end, they ended up outselling the Xbox 360. But it was Sony's ego. They thought they could do no wrong after how wildly successful the PlayStation 2 was. And that's why they had a bunch of problems with the PlayStation 3. You could go into Xbox with the Xbox 360. Even though the PS3, like I said, at the very end outsold the 360, the 360 was the top dog for a good portion of that generation. And Microsoft thought, like, hey, the 360 did great for us. Xbox Live did great for us. We were the platform to go to for Halo and third-party games and Gears of War. Gears of War launched. It was premiered on the 360. And when they went to the Xbox One, they're like, hey, we're going to have all these anti-consumer things. But in 2013, the industry was nowhere near ready to have an always online console.
That's right.
But again, Microsoft thought because their farts smelled like flowers that they could just push whatever they want to onto the consumer with the Xbox One. And let's keep it real. Microsoft hasn't recovered from their fumble of launching the Xbox One to this day.
That's true.
Even with how great the Series X and S are hardware-wise, they have not recovered from it. They have not been able to get footing in the gaming industry again like they did with the Xbox 360. So time has proven that companies, when they are very successful with a previous product, their egos make them make poor decisions, and they think that people will still buy whatever the hell they're selling, even if they have anti-consumer practices. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Nintendo right now.
I agree.
Hopefully things change. It'll be interesting to see once the honeymoon period of the Switch 2 is done, how sales are. But right now, Nintendo's head is up its own ass, and it's not a good look. And people are getting annoyed. This is Rich.
Yeah, I believe that. That this is going to completely hurt the sales of the Switch 2 and stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to get one. And knowing the news about the storage is kind of idiotic if you ask me, but yeah. I don't know. Don't know. I think Nintendo's going to fumble. And they're going to lose. My my throat's kind of going, I guess. Anyways, well, we'll see. We will see. I don't know how Nintendo's gonna fix the storage unless they have a model revision very quickly to fix that. But I hope Brazil, I really do, wins, and I hope other countries take them to court, because you can't be bricking people's consoles by having usernames. If you think a username is inappropriate, have a check. When they're typing in the username, have a check. And if you think that in your system thinks it's inappropriate, say it's inappropriate. And don't let them make it, right? You can just automatically say, hey, this is inappropriate. And there's some websites that do that. It checks and it says, your username is inappropriate, try a new one. No one gets in trouble. If the person done has their username and then you say it's inappropriate, and that's a real problem, because they've probably had that username for a long time. So Nintendo, you can't be doing that stuff either. And, yeah, honestly, I hope you lose in court, Nintendo. I really do. Because Nintendo don't. And you should never have done that sort of stuff. It's wrong. And I hope you lose. I really do. I'm not rooting for them. And I never will. The last Nintendo system I bought was like I said, a Nintendo DS Lite. That's it. And I bought a Sega game for it. Anyways, I haven't supported Nintendo since they did that whole YouTube bullshit. They learned that lesson pretty quick, didn't they? They no longer have that Nintendo partnership stuff, do they? No, they learned. They're going to have to learn another hard lesson. They really are. Anyways, before I lose my voice, I'm going to end this live stream. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Peace, love, and hugs. And always be kind to each other. I love you all. Hugs and kisses from your girl Angel. Bye-bye for now.